When my high school friend, James, told me about Randaunatica, I thought it was a cool app. Exploring locations with an intention sounded like a lot of fun. James and I tried the app few times and had some interesting randonauting trips. However, I once made the mistake of using the app by myself. It was one of the most terrifying Randaunatica trips I've ever been on. My parents went out on a date one Friday evening, and my friends couldn't hang out with me for various reasons. So, I was home alone. I couldn't find much to watch on TV, didn't want to do homework, and scrolling Facebook was boring. So, I decided to try Randaunatica to pass time. I left my house around 8 at night. I couldn't drive because I still didn't have a driver's license, so I had to use my bike. I decided to go to places that were not too far away from my house, because riding my bike larger distances would take forever. My first randonauting intentions were magic, a treasure, sports and something shocking. Those yielded no meaningful results, and the last one was on someone's property, so I didn't want to trespass. Though there wasn't a lot of excitement at first, I did get some workout with all the biking. When I did my last Randaunatica attempt, it was getting close to 10 o'clock at night. My last intention was to discover something spooky and weird. I was about 5 minutes into my bike ride when I noticed in my bike's mirror that a car was behind me. It was a silver Honda with tinted windows. A large infinity sticker adorned its windshield. The road was not too busy. The car didn't pass me, which was odd. Instead, the driver kept driving slowly. It was spooky, but I didn't associate it with my Randaunatica intention. When the car didn't stop after 10 minutes, my heart started racing and I panicked. I started pedaling faster. The car looked to accelerate as well. Okay, this man is obviously following me, I remember thinking. I saw a house at the road's intersection. I dashed towards it. As I did so, motion detection lights turned on. Fortunately, the backyard fence was open, so I went right in. I dismounted my bike and peered through the wooden fence panels. The car that was following me came to a complete halt in front of the house. Then, I heard an elderly man walk out onto his front porch. He most likely heard noises, and the motion detecting lights alerted him to the fact that something was wrong. "Hello?" I heard the man call out. "Who is there?" he asked. The car then drove away. After a few moments, the elderly man stepped inside. I was standing in his backyard in the dark, trying to catch my breath. I waited a few minutes. When I was confident the weirdo car was gone, I snuck out of the stranger's property and sped away on my bike before the old guy noticed me. The Randaunatica app said that the destination point was only 5 minutes away. I recognized it as one of the parks by the lake. When I arrived there, the park appeared deserted, yet it was well illuminated. I got off my bike and began looking around for anything spooky and weird that fit my Randaunatica intention. I discovered an empty beer bottle, a cigarette and an owl sticker. Randaunatica's logo is an owl, therefore I thought this was a cool discovery. There didn't appear to be anything else to find. I sat on one of the benches facing the lake, thinking that my spooky and weird randonauting intention had been a bust. It was peaceful at the park and I relished the moment. A rabbit leapt from a shrub nearby. It surprised me at first, but I thought it was cute. The bunny only stared at me. I found it odd that it didn't flee. But then, I remembered my friend James telling me about how animals behave strangely during randonauting trips for some unexplained reason. Perhaps the rabbit was part of the spooky and weird after all, I thought. Suddenly, I became aware of a light shining on me. I turned back to see the car with the infinity sticker parked nearby. Its high beams were turned on. My heart pounded faster. Not again. I decided it was time to run. A man got out of the car as I was about to start riding my bike. He was dressed fully in black and sported a sports hat. He began to approach me slowly. I hopped on my bike and started riding as fast as I could. I turned a couple of times and noticed the guy standing, as if frozen, besides the bench where I had previously sat. He stared my way. A chill went down my spine, and I hoped he wouldn't follow me. I arrived home about 10 minutes before my folks, so I didn't get in trouble with them for going out alone so late at night. But I couldn't sleep that night. I kept peering out my bedroom window to make sure the mysterious man I had seen didn't follow me. Who knows what he had in mind for me? It all started innocently enough. My friends Josh, Mike, TJ, and I downloaded the Randaunatica app, excited to explore the city in a new and unpredictable way. We set our intention to adventure, eager to see where the app will lead us. At first, it was fun. The app took us to a hidden park we never knew existed, and then to a quirky vintage store where we found some cool treasures. But then things started to get weird. The app led us to an abandoned building on the outskirts of town. It looked like a factory or a warehouse, and it was completely dark. But the app was insistent the destination was inside. I was reluctant to go and check it out, but TJ and Josh insisted that it will be fun. Against our better judgment, we entered the building. Since it was so dark inside, we used our phone flashlights to navigate the dark corridors, feeling increasingly uneasy with each step. We soon realized that we weren't alone. Something was there, something that made the hairs on the back of our necks stand up. As we turned a corner, we saw it. A figure stood on the wall, staring at us. It reminded me of the Smeagol character from the Lord of the Rings movie. It was growling. Scared, we ran, but the creature ran after us. Some of us stumbled and fell, and the creature was almost upon us when suddenly, the Randaunatica app beeped. Our intention had been fulfilled. We had reached our destination. Confused and terrified, we looked around for exit. Over there. Josh yelled, and we all rushed to leave the building. We ran to Mike's Jeep as fast as we could. My God. That was some adventure for sure. I had always been a bit of daredevil. So when my friends, Billy and Samantha, told me about the Randaunatica app, I was eager to try it out. One Saturday evening we hopped into Billy's car and decided to do some randonauting. We set our intention to thrill, hoping for a heart-pumping adventure. The app led us to an old dark cemetery. It was a creepy place, with overgrown grass and crooked headstones. But I wasn't scared, I was excited. We wandered through the cemetery, using our phone flashlights to read the names on the headstones. Samantha found some of the names funny, but Billy felt offended, telling her to stop and that it was disrespectful to the deceased people. Are you sure we will find anything interesting here? I asked. Yeah, Billy said confidently, you just have to pay attention, he assured me. We continued walking through the cemetery. There were a lot of tall emerald trees between the burial sections. I'm not sure how far we walked before hearing a noise. We regrouped, Billy signaling for us to be quiet. We noticed a group of people dressed all in black gathered around a grave. I assumed they were mourners paying their respects. No, I don't think so, Samantha said, adding, I think there's some weirdos performing a ritual. We saw people holding candles and chanting in a language we didn't understand. Billy and Samantha were terrified and wanted to leave, but I was intrigued. I wanted to get closer and see what was going on. I went to approach the strangers slowly. As I got closer, the chanting became louder. I could see that the grave around which they were gathered had been freshly dug, but the dirt was still piled on top. Then I noticed the symbol carved into the headstone. A pentagram with candles at each point. I stepped on a branch before I could say hello. One of the people in black turned around when he heard the branch making cracking sound. The chanting ceased and the group faced me. I knew I was in danger because their eyes were filled with malice. I turned to run. Billy and Samantha were nowhere to be found. I realized I was alone, trapped in the cemetery with a bunch of weirdos. Adrenaline had made me forget I had legs. I took off as fast as I could. The people in black did not run, but rather walked fast. Fortunately, there was a mausoleum with a slightly open door. I pushed as hard as I could the door, opened it, and hid inside. I kept the door open a little bit to see if the people in black caught up with me. I soon heard them. One of them said, I think we lost her. Yes, it's just a high school kid, another one said. She is scared and will never return to this location. Let's finish what we started. Then they left. I let out a sigh of relief. I suddenly realized I was inside someone's final resting place. I didn't bother looking inside the mausoleum. I quietly shut its door, removed my shoes, and made my way out of the cemetery. Boy, was that a terrifying adventure. I was reading a self-help book about law of attraction technique called scripting. The book mentioned Randaunatica app, which piqued my interest. I went online and read more about it. According to what I found, the app claimed to help people explore new places and discover hidden treasures. But I wasn't so sure. Some of the stuff I read online talked about the app's darker side, that it could lead you to places you never want to go. Still, curiosity got the better of me. One night, when I was feeling particularly adventurous, I downloaded the app and set out on a Randaunatica adventure. The app generated a set of random coordinates, and I followed them to a dark alleyway behind an old, abandoned building. As I approached the spot, I felt a chill run down my spine. It was as if the air around me had turned colder and I could hear strange whispers in my ear. But I pushed on, determined to see what the app had led me to. When I reached the end of the alley, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was hard to make out any details, but I could tell it was a person. I called out to them, but they didn't respond. Instead, they began to move towards me, slowly and deliberately. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, frozen in fear. The figure got closer and closer, and I could see now that it was a woman, with long hair and a pale, ghostly complexion. The woman reached out to me, and for a moment, I thought I was going to be attacked. But instead, the woman handed me a small object, a key. "Find the door," the woman whispered, before disappearing into thin air. I was shaken and confused, but I knew I had to follow the woman's instructions. I searched the alleyway until I found a small door hidden behind a pile of trash. Using the key, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. It was pitch black inside, and I could hear strange noises all around me. I felt like I was being watched, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. But I pushed on, determined to see where the door led. As I walked deeper into the darkness, I began to see flickers of light up ahead. And then I saw it. It was a room filled with candles, illuminating a strange symbol etched into the floor. I couldn't make out what the symbol meant, but I knew it was something ancient and powerful. I tried to leave, but the door was locked behind me. And then I heard a voice, whispering in my ear. "Welcome to the other side," it said. "You'll never leave." I realized that I was trapped and began to panic. I frantically tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. I trembled in fear as I realized I was in some kind of dark ritual room. The candles in the room flickered, and the strange symbol on the floor seemed to glow with an otherworldly energy. My heart raced as I tried to think of a way to escape. I tried to call for help, but my phone had no signal. Suddenly, I heard footsteps coming towards me. I turned around to see a group of hooded figures approaching me. They began chanting in a language I didn't understand, and I felt like I was in a nightmare. I tried to run but was quickly caught by the hooded figures. They grabbed me and forced me onto the symbol on the floor. I was terrified as the ritual began, not knowing what they had planned for me. As the chanting intensified, my vision started to blur. I felt like I was losing consciousness, but then a flash of light filled the room. The hooded figures screamed and ran away, and I was left alone in the darkness. I realized that the light came from my phone, which somehow turned on by itself. I quickly unlocked it and tried to call for help again. This time, I managed to get through to emergency services and explain my situation. When the police arrived, they found me alone in the ritual room. They took me to safety and investigated the scene. They told me that the hooded figures were part of a dangerous cult, and they had been using the Randaunatica app to lure unsuspecting victims to their rituals. The police had been looking for the cultists for a long time. I was traumatized by the experience but am grateful to be alive. I think Randaunatica is dangerous, and it can be manipulated by those with evil intentions. My friend Mark told me about his creepy Randaunatica experience. What I heard made me want to avoid using the app at all costs. Here goes my friend's story. After watching some YouTube videos, Mark decided to give Randaunatica a try and downloaded the app. The app generated a set of random coordinates, and Mark set out to follow them. He walked for about 20 minutes until he reached a deserted park on the outskirts of the city. The park was run down, and the playground equipment looked like it hadn't been used in years. As Mark looked around, he noticed a man in a hooded sweatshirt sitting on a bench nearby. The man was staring straight ahead and didn't seem to notice Mark's presence. Mark thought it was odd, but didn't pay too much attention to it. Mark walked around the park, and as he was leaving, he noticed the hooded man was following him. Mark picked up his pace and started to jog. He could hear the man's footsteps getting closer and closer. Mark felt scared as he realized he was being followed by a stranger in a deserted park. He took out his phone and called the police, but his phone suddenly turned off. Mark tried to turn it back on, but it was completely dead. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned around to see the hooded man standing behind him. The man said nothing, but Mark could see a glint in his eyes that made him feel uneasy. Mark turned and ran as fast as he could. He heard the hooded man's footsteps behind him, and he knew he had to find a way to escape. He looked around frantically and saw a tree with low-hanging branches. Mark climbed up the tree and hid among the branches. He heard the hooded man walking around, searching for him. Mark was terrified, but he stayed quiet, hoping the man would eventually give up and leave. After what felt like hours, Mark finally heard the hooded man's footsteps receding. He waited a few more minutes before climbing down and running as fast as he could to the nearest street. Mark flagged down a passing car and explained what had happened. The driver called the police, and Mark was taken to safety. The police investigated the park and found nothing out of the ordinary. They never found the hooded man, and Mark was left wondering if it was all just a coincidence or if there was something more sinister behind the Randaunatica app. Hopefully you enjoyed these stories. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell button so that you don't miss any of our content. Thank you for your time. Stay tuned for more videos.